Hi everyone, Roy here. Welcome to a new video. There has been a huge wave of layoffs everywhere recently. I'm sure a lot of you guys are wondering about questions such as who usually gets laid off first? What are the chances that you will get laid off? And if a layoff does occur, what are some severance pay benefits that you will be getting? In this video, we'll be getting into these topics. So let's get into it. We have already seen a huge wave of layoffs during the 2020 pandemic times. And now we're just seeing the impact again from higher interest rate from Federal Reserve. We have recently heard news of layoffs from Meta, from Amazon, there's Lyft, Stripe, and of course Twitter, letting go almost more than 50% of their workforce. What's important to understand is that a lot of these businesses, when it comes to layoff, they like to follow a model called LIFO, or last in, first out. And what that means is that the amount of tenure will decide the chances of you being laid off or not. Generally, businesses have a very considerable amount of prejudice against newer employees. So when it comes to layoffs, they will be let go first. There has been a lot of statistics showing that the average tenure of the employees who get laid off is around 1 year. So if you have been with the company for more than a year, I would say you have a slightly higher chance of not being laid off. And on the contrary, if you just joined a company, there is actually a higher chance of you getting laid off. And if you guys have been following LinkedIn at all, you will notice that some posts of people just joining Meta or some people just joining a company like Stripe or Lyft maybe a couple months ago, and now they're getting laid off. And this is very common. And the big reason for this is that a lot of these people are just ramping up for the businesses. They don't really understand what's going on just yet. And they're more disposable when it comes to layoffs, because the business can still function without these new additions to their teams. And the second factor that usually look for is the salary of the workforce. Because essentially layoff is a cost-cutting measure. So if you have higher than average salary within the team, then again, you're more vulnerable to layoff unless you're bringing especially important impact to the team. But generally, if you have higher than average salary, then there's a higher chance that you will be laid off due to cost cutting. And if you have below than average salary, obviously that's not a great thing, but when it comes to layoff, you would actually have a higher chance of staying in the company and not getting affected by the layoff. Lastly, some other important factors to consider when it comes to layoff for businesses especially is the jobs that you have and the roles that you have within your team and the product that you work on your team. For example, recruiters are very disposable when it comes to layoffs, because when they're laying off, they're not going to hire additional people. That's the whole point of cost cutting, right? Is to get rid of these jobs that we don't need. So a lot of times recruiters are actually the first ones to go. And then there's a lot of contractors, because there's usually not any legal consequences of letting them go. And I don't like saying this, but data scientists are also very vulnerable to layoffs generally, because data scientists primarily help with the company's growth. And during times of layoffs, most companies are trying to cut their cost instead of trying to grow their company. So essentially, data scientists don't have much of function during layoff times. So a lot of companies will actually let them go first. Unless, of course, you're working on some very important core products that drives revenue. For example, fraud prevention could help the business save a lot of money. Or if you're working self-driving, or if you're working in ads, these are also very important to the core products. And also they would have very, very high impact if your project is significant. And then of course the product that you're working on is also very important, because a lot of times when business is trying to cut their cost, they look for these products that are still in development phases, and they think that they would have to spend a lot of resources in order to develop this specific product. Then they would rather let that go. As an example, we saw in Amazon, they actually let go of a lot of teams in Alexa, because again, Alexa is still in development phase. I would say it's not very mature yet. Obviously you can do a lot of things with Alexa, but it doesn't really specifically drive any revenue for Amazon, so it's a little bit more disposable compared to some other core products. And now let's talk about the severance packages if you were to get laid off. Obviously, I hope none of you guys will ever come to this stage, but if it does happen, I hope you guys are prepared. A very important aspect to understand about severance packages is that it's not required by law. The businesses are not obligated to offer the severance package, but they usually offer these severance packages as a gesture of goodwill and to stay competitive within the industry. And generally, there are three major parts of a severance package. The first one, the most important one for a lot of people, is the pay. A very standard package will look like maybe 2 weeks of pay for every year of service that you have with the company. There could be more generous offers like what we see with Facebook. They're offering 4 months of pay, and then additionally they have 2 weeks of pay added for every year of service. And then the second part of severance package usually include the health benefits. Usually they will stay with you for a little while before they're gone completely, just so that the transition is smooth and your family or you are covered with health benefits in case of emergencies. And the third part of severance package, which is less common, where they would help you find the next employer for you potentially. And this can take in many different forms, whether it would be help you with sponsorship, or it could be early access to some external vendors, or they could lead you to some early leads to your next potential employers. Usually, if you are chosen to be laid off, then the business will hand you this agreement where if you do accept, you will get all those benefits mentioned above, with the added pay, with the additional health benefits, and potentially career support. And if you do sign this severance agreement, then essentially you're agreeing that your employment at this company is effectively terminated. Now let's talk about what to do afterwards. So firstly, I would say immediately file for unemployment benefits. Depending on the state, even if there is a severance pay, you can still get additional monthly unemployment pay, but it's really dependent on the state. Some states would not offer this benefit if you're under severance pay. And then you want to be prepared for the next job. If you do want to find another job, then I would say you want to get prepared as soon as possible. Depending on your industry, if you're a data scientist, I would start reviewing your resume, add whatever information that could help you on your resume. If you're a software engineer, I will start looking into lead code. And again, you want to be ahead in the game. And the bottom line is, if you did get laid off, look into the severance package. There is potential for negotiation if you think that you would deserve more, but do not get discouraged because it happens to everyone. A lot of times it just comes down to luck. So in the end, try to stay positive. And that's pretty much it for this video. I hope you guys find the information useful, and please hit the like button, subscribe for more, and I will see you guys in my next video.